The war room fell silent when Princess walked in. She could see the defeat on every face. Her generals stood around the holographic map table, watching red enemy markers spread across their territory like a disease. The Dominion had been pushing deeper into space for 3 cycles now, and there was nothing left to stop them. Took her place at the head of the table. She was tall for a female, with silver skin that caught the light and eyes the color of pale moons. Her father, the Emperor, lay dying in his chambers. The burden of leadership had fallen on her shoulders whether she wanted it or not. General cleared his throat. He was old and tired and could see that he had already accepted their fate. He told her that the outer colonies had fallen. The fleet was moving toward the inner worlds. They had perhaps 2 months before enemy ships reached Prime itself. Asked about their remaining forces, the answer made her stomach turn cold. They had 47 warships left. They had over 300. She closed her eyes and thought about her people. Billions of across a dozen worlds, all looking to her for salvation. She had studied politics and diplomacy her entire life, preparing for the day she would rule. No one had prepared her for this. A younger officer spoke up. His name was Lieutenant, and he was one of the few who still seemed to have hope in his eyes. He said there might be another option. The humans had offered an alliance. Felt a flash of frustration. She knew about the humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They were a young species from a small planet in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel a few centuries ago. Their technology was decent but nothing special. Their military was small. Most species in the Galactic Council considered them barely worth noticing. She asked why they would want help from such a weak ally. Explained that the humans were offering more than just their own forces. They had connections. They traded with dozens of species. They could bring in weapons, supplies, and perhaps even other allies. More importantly, they were offering something they desperately needed. They were offering hope. Considered this. Hope was a currency she had run out of long ago, but her people still believed in her. They still prayed to the old gods and trusted that their princess would find a way to save them. She told to bring the human ambassador. The man who entered the war room an hour later was not what expected. His name was Daniel Carter, and he was remarkably ordinary looking. He was of average height for a human, with brown hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple diplomatic uniform with no medals or decorations. When he walked, he moved quietly, almost carefully, like someone trying not to draw attention to himself. He bowed too in the fashion which surprised her. Most alien diplomats did not bother to learn their customs. Then he spoke in flawless, which surprised her even more. The accent was perfect. He had clearly studied their language for years. Daniel told her that Earth wanted to help. He said that humanity believed in standing with those who faced extinction. He said they had watched the Dominion bully smaller species for too long, and it was time someone stood up to them. Asked what the humans wanted in return. Daniel smiled. It was a gentle smile, almost shy. He said that Earth wanted a permanent alliance. They wanted to be bound to the Empire in a way that could not be broken. He proposed a marriage. The room went absolutely still. Stared at him, she asked if he was joking. Diplomatic marriages were an ancient tradition, but they had not been practiced in centuries. The idea seemed absurd. Daniel explained that a marriage would create a blood bond between their species. It would show the galaxy that humans were united forever. It would make them think twice before attacking, because they would know that harming them meant making an enemy of Earth. General stepped forward angrily. He asked who Daniel expected to marry. He said that no noble would lower themselves to wed a human. Daniel looked directly at. He said that Earth proposed a marriage between himself and the princess. Felt the blood drain from her face. She wanted to refuse immediately. She wanted to throw this presumptuous human out of her palace and never see him again. But then she thought about her people. She thought about the children in the outer colonies who had already been captured by the... She thought about what the enemy would do to her world if they won. She asked for time to consider. Daniel bowed again and left the room without argument. Spent 3 days thinking about the proposal. She consulted with her advisors, her priests, and even her dying father. The emperor was too weak to speak, but she saw the answer in his eyes. He wanted her to do whatever it took to save their people. On the 4th day, summoned Daniel back to the palace. She told him that she accepted his proposal. She would marry him, but she made it clear that this was a political arrangement only. She would give him no love, no affection, and no warmth. He would have her name and nothing more. Daniel simply nodded. He said he understood. He promised to honor her and her people. He promised that Earth would send its fleet within the month. The wedding took place 1 week later. Barely remembered the ceremony. She stood in the great temple wearing the white robes of a bride, speaking words that had been spoken for thousands of years. Daniel stood beside her in a human formal uniform, looking calm and peaceful. He did not try to touch her more than the ceremony required. He did not smile or laugh or celebrate. He simply made his vows quietly and seriously, as if he understood exactly what she was sacrificing. That night lay in her chambers alone. Daniel had requested separate quarters, which surprised her. She had expected him to demand his rights as her husband. Instead, he had simply wished her a good night and walked away. She stared at the ceiling and wondered what kind of man she had married. He seemed so soft, so gentle, so completely unremarkable. How could someone like him help save her people? She told herself it did not matter. The human fleet would arrive soon. That was all that mattered. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep, not knowing that she had just married the most dangerous man she would ever meet. 3 months passed after the wedding. The human fleet arrived as promised, and the advance slowed. For the first time in years, the people had reason to hope, but found herself thinking less about the war and more about her strange new husband. Daniel Carter was a puzzle she could not solve. He spent his days learning everything he could about culture. He read their ancient texts and visited their museums. He asked servants about their families and remembered every name. He attended council meetings and listened carefully, never interrupting, always taking notes. At night, he stayed in his own chambers and read poetry by the light of the 3 moons. Watched him from a distance and felt confused. He did not act like any diplomat she had ever met. He did not push for political advantage or try to influence her decisions. He did not ask for money or power or special treatment. He simply existed quietly in her palace, like a ghost who happened to be polite. One evening, she found him sitting in the palace garden. He was feeding small creatures called sky birds that nested in the flowering trees. The birds were usually afraid of strangers, but they landed on his hands without fear. She asked him why he had agreed to this marriage. She asked what he really wanted from her people. Daniel looked at her with those calm eyes. He said that Earth wanted nothing except friendship. He said that humans believed in building connections with other species, not conquering them. He said that he had volunteered for this mission because he genuinely wanted to help. Did not believe him. She had been raised in politics. She knew that everyone wanted something, but she could not figure out what his game was. She left him in the garden and went to bed. That night changed everything. Woke to the sound of screaming. It came from the corridor outside her chambers, and it cut off suddenly in a way that made her blood freeze. She knew that sound. Someone had just died. She threw off her covers and grabbed the ceremonial blade that hung beside her bed. It was a beautiful weapon, forged from sacred metal and decorated with gems. It had been in her family for generations. It had never been used in actual combat. Heavy footsteps approached her door. They were too heavy to be, too slow and deliberate to be human. Felt true fear for the first time in her life. There were monsters. They stood 8 feet tall and weighed as much as small vehicles. Their skin was covered in bone plates that could stop plasma fire. Their claws could tear through metal. A single warrior could kill dozens of ordinary soldiers before being brought down. She did not understand how they had gotten into the palace. The security systems should have detected them. The guards should have stopped them. The door exploded inward. 3 warriors stood in the doorway. They were covered in purple blood that recognized as. Behind them, she could see the bodies of her guards lying in the corridor. The warriors grinned at her with mouths full of sharp teeth. The lead spoke. His voice was deep and grinding like rocks being crushed together. He called her princess and said that the Dominion sent their greetings. He said they were going to take her alive if possible, dead if necessary. Raised her blade and prepared to die fighting. A voice spoke from behind her. Daniel told her to get down. Turned and saw her husband standing beside the bed. He had been sleeping in the other room, in his separate quarters. She did not understand how he had gotten here so fast. She did not understand how he had gotten through the locked connecting door without making a sound. The lead laughed. He looked at Daniel, this small human male in sleeping clothes, and saw nothing but an easy kill. He told his warriors to take the princess and kill the soft creature from the soft world. Daniel moved. Had never seen anything move that fast. One moment he was standing still beside the bed. The next moment he was across the room, directly in front of the lead. The warrior swung his massive clawed hand at Daniel's head. Daniel caught this arm. He caught it with one hand, stopping a blow that should have been impossible to stop. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the chamber like thunder. Daniel twisted the arm in a direction arms were not meant to go. The screamed, a horrible sound of pain and shock. Then Daniel's other hand shot forward and struck the warrior's throat. The collapsed. He fell straight down like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The other 2 warriors stared in disbelief. They had just watched their leader, a veteran of 100 battles, killed in less than 3 seconds by an unarmed human. They attacked together. Daniel flowed between them like water. He ducked under one swing and broke the warrior's knee with a kick that moved too fast to see. As that fell, Daniel jumped onto his back and used him as a platform to launch himself at the 3rd warrior. His hands found the weak spot where the bone plates met at the neck. He twisted. The 3rd died before he hit the ground. The 2nd warrior was trying to crawl away, his shattered knee dragging behind him. Daniel walked over calmly and ended his suffering with a single precise strike. The whole fight had taken perhaps 15 seconds. Stood frozen in the corner of her room. She still held her ceremonial blade, but her hands were shaking so badly that she nearly dropped it. She stared at Daniel. She stared at the bodies of 3 warriors, the most feared soldiers in the galaxy, lying dead on her floor. Daniel turned to face her. He had a small cut on his cheek from where a claw had grazed him. Otherwise, he appeared completely unharmed. His breathing was not even heavy. He asked if she was injured. His voice was calm and gentle, as if he had just finished a light exercise. Could not speak. She could not process what she had just witnessed. Palace security finally arrived. A dozen soldiers burst into the room with weapons drawn. They stopped and stared at the scene before them. 3 assassins dead. 1 human standing peacefully beside the bed, their princess trembling in the corner. Daniel apologized for waking her. He said he would clean up and suggested that she try to get some rest. He walked out of the room without another word. Did not sleep that night. She sat in a chair and watched servants remove the bodies while security officers swept the palace for more intruders. They found 5 more in other parts of the building. All of them were already dead. Daniel had killed them before coming to her room. 8 warriors in total. He had killed all 8 of them with his bare hands. Thought about her husband reading poetry in the moonlight. She thought about him feeding skybirds in the garden. She thought about his gentle smile and his soft voice and his quiet manners. She realized that she did not know Daniel Carter at all. And for the first time since her wedding, she wanted to. Did not speak to Daniel for 3 days after the attack. She was not avoiding him out of fear. She was trying to understand what she had witnessed. She replayed the fight in her mind again and again, watching him move with impossible speed and strike with impossible force. Nothing in her education had prepared her for this. On the 4th day, she went to find him. Daniel was in the human embassy, a small building near the palace that had been given to Earth's diplomatic staff. He was sitting at a desk covered in data pads, reading reports about the war. He looked up when she entered and smiled that gentle smile she was beginning to recognize. She demanded answers. Daniel put down his data pad and nodded slowly. He said that he had been expecting this conversation. He asked her to sit down because the truth would take some time to explain. Sat across from him and waited. Daniel began by asking her what she knew about Earth. She told him what everyone knew. Earth was a small planet in a minor solar system. Humans had evolved there recently by galactic standards. They were a young species with moderate technology and limited military power. They had survived because no one had bothered to conquer them. Daniel smiled again, but this time there was something different in his eyes. He said that everything she believed was a lie. He pulled up a holographic display and showed her images of Earth. She saw blue oceans and green land masses, white clouds and brown deserts. It looked like a pleasant world, unremarkable and peaceful. Then Daniel changed the display settings. He showed her the same planet, but with different data. He showed her the extreme temperature variations, from deserts hot enough to cook flesh to frozen wastelands cold enough to freeze blood. He showed her the violent storms that could level cities, the earthquakes that swallowed buildings whole, the volcanoes that could darken skies for years. He showed her the predators that hunted in every environment, the poisonous plants that covered continents, the diseases that had killed billions throughout human history. Stared at the data in disbelief. She asked how any species could survive on such a world. Daniel told her that humans had adapted. He said that Earth was what scientists called a death world, a planet so hostile that it should not produce intelligent life at all. But humans had not merely survived there. They had thrived. They had evolved to be the ultimate survivors. He showed her medical data comparing humans to other species. Human bones were denser than almost any sentient race. Human muscles could exert force that other species could only achieve with mechanical assistance. Human bodies could heal from wounds that would kill, or any other known species. But the most remarkable thing was human endurance. Daniel explained that humans could chase prey for days without rest. Their bodies were designed to outlast anything they hunted. While other predators relied on speed or strength or ambush, humans simply followed their targets until they collapsed from exhaustion. It was called persistence hunting, and it made humans the most terrifying predators on their world. Thought about the fight in her chambers. She remembered how Daniel had moved, how fast and how precisely. She asked if all humans could do what he did. Daniel shook his head. He said that he was trained. He told her about something called Special Operations Command, an elite military unit that took the most capable human soldiers and made them even more dangerous. He told her about wars that humanity had fought in secret, conflicts on distant worlds that the galaxy never knew about. He told her about missions where small teams of humans had faced impossible odds and won. Asked why humans hid their true nature. Why did they pretend to be weak when they were so strong? Daniel leaned back in his chair and considered the question carefully. He said that when humans first reached the stars, they realized something important. The galaxy was full of powerful species who feared competition. If humanity had revealed its true capabilities, they would have been seen as a threat. Other species would have united against them before humans had a chance to build alliances and establish themselves. So humanity had chosen a different path. They had decided to appear harmless. They smiled and traded and made friends. They let other species underestimate them. They waited. Felt a chill run down her spine. She asked what they were waiting for. Daniel looked at her with those calm eyes. He said that humanity was waiting for the right moment to show the galaxy who they really were. He said that Earth had been building its strength in secret for centuries. Their true fleet was 10 times larger than what the galaxy believed. Their weapons were generations ahead of what they had shared. Their soldiers were trained to fight in ways that other species could not imagine. He said that the alliance with the Empire was not an act of charity. It was the beginning of something larger. Earth had chosen thee as their first true allies because they saw honor and dignity in its people. When this war was over, humanity intended to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, and they wanted the standing beside them. Sat in silence for a long time. She was processing a truth that overturned everything she had believed. The humans were not a weak species who needed protection. They were predators pretending to be prey, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal their claws. She looked at Daniel differently now. She saw the gentle man who read poetry and fed skybirds, but she also saw the warrior underneath, the hunter who had killed 8 assassins without breaking a sweat. She asked him one final question. She asked why he had agreed to marry her when he could have demanded so much more. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her more than anything else he had revealed. He said that he had volunteered for this mission because he believed in what they represented. He said that most species in the galaxy were cruel and selfish, caring only for power and conquest. But they had built an empire based on art and philosophy and kindness. They valued beauty and wisdom over destruction. He said that when he had first learned about before they ever met, he had been impressed by her courage. He had read about how she had taken command of a dying empire and refused to surrender. He had seen recordings of her speeches, her determination, her love for her people. He said that he had not come to Prime as a political sacrifice. He had come because he wanted to protect something worth protecting. Did not know what to say. She had spent months believing that Daniel was using her, that the humans had some hidden agenda that would eventually reveal itself. She had never considered the possibility that he genuinely cared. She stood up to leave. She needed time to think about everything she had learned. At the door, she stopped and looked back at him. She thanked him for saving her life. It was the first real thing she had said to him since their wedding. Daniel smiled that gentle smile. He said that he would do it again without hesitation. Left the embassy with her mind spinning. The truth of Earth changed everything she thought she knew about the galaxy, but more importantly, it changed everything she thought she knew about her husband. For the first time, she found herself wanting to know him better. The Dominion came with everything they had. Stood in the central command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching enemy fleet. 200 warships filled the darkness of space, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. They had learned about the human alliance and decided to end the war before Earth could fully commit its forces. General stood beside her, his face grim. He said that their combined fleet numbered only 90 ships, and human vessels together could not match the enemy numbers. He recommended evacuating the royal family while there was still time. Refused. She told him that she would not abandon her people. If Prime was going to fall, she would fall with it. Then the human admiral spoke up. His name was Christopher Blake, a weathered man with hair and steady hands. He commanded the human Fifth Fleet, which had arrived just 2 days earlier. He told that she should not give up hope. He said that humans had a saying on Earth about quality over quantity. General asked what he meant. Admiral Blake smiled. It was the same kind of smile Daniel had when he knew something others did not. He said that they had never seen human warships in real combat. They had no idea what they were about to face. The battle began an hour later. Watched in amazement as the human ships launched from their positions. They moved differently than any vessels she had ever seen. Where warships flew in careful formations, the human ships scattered like a swarm of insects. They were smaller than vessels, but they changed direction so quickly that enemy targeting systems could not track them. The first ships opened fire. Their plasma cannons filled space with burning light. The human ships danced through the barrage, weaving between the deadly beams with impossible precision. Not a single human vessel was hit. Then the humans fired back. Had seen weapons before. She had seen plasma cannons and laser arrays and missile systems. What the humans used was something else entirely. Their projectiles traveled faster than light itself, appearing inside enemy shields before defenses could react. Warships began exploding, their heavy armor meaning nothing against weapons that bypassed it completely. General stared at the display in shock. He asked what kind of weapons the humans were using. Admiral Blake told him calmly that they were called hyperkinetic accelerators. Earth had developed them in secret decades ago. They fired dense metal slugs at faster-than-light speeds, appearing at their targets instantaneously. No shield could stop them because no shield could react fast enough. The formation began to crumble. Ships tried to retreat, but the human vessels pursued them relentlessly. Watched as the 200 enemy warships became 150, then 100, then 50. Human pilots flew patterns that seemed impossible, pulling maneuvers that would kill most species from the crushing force alone. But they were not finished. Their ground forces had launched during the space battle, using the chaos to slip through the defenses. 50,000 warriors landed outside the capital city while the fleets fought overhead. They began marching toward the palace walls. Felt hope turned to despair. The space battle was being won, but the ground forces were not strong enough to stop an army of that size. They would break through the walls and slaughter everyone inside. Daniel appeared beside her. She had not seen him enter the command center. He was wearing human combat armor now, dark plates that covered his body from neck to foot. He carried no weapons that she could see. He told Admiral Blake that he was requesting permission to join the ground defense. The Admiral nodded without hesitation. He said that transport ships were waiting. General stepped forward in protest. He told Daniel that there were 10,000 soldiers on the walls. He asked what one man could possibly do that they could not. Daniel looked at him with those calm eyes. He said that he was not one man. He said that 50 human soldiers had volunteered to drop with him. The general laughed bitterly. He asked if 50 humans were supposed to stop 50,000. Daniel did not answer. He simply turned and left the command center. Followed him to the observation tower at the top of the palace. She wanted to watch, though part of her was terrified of what she might see. The army approached the western wall like a tide of darkness. They were massive creatures, their bone-plated bodies crushing the ground beneath their feet. They roared battle cries that echoed across the city. The defenders opened fire with everything they had, but they kept coming. Their armor absorbed hit after hit, and their numbers seemed endless. Then the human transports arrived. They dropped from the sky like falling stars, landing directly in front of the advance. 50 humans emerged in combat armor, spreading out across the breach in the wall that the enemy had created. Watched Daniel step forward to meet the first wave of warriors. He moved with that terrible speed she remembered from the night of the assassination. His hands became weapons, striking with precision that shattered bone plates and crushed throats. Enemy soldiers fell around him like grain before a blade. The other human soldiers fought the same way. They worked together in perfect coordination, covering each other and creating kill zones where warriors stumbled and died. They used small firearms that seemed to pierce enemy armor with ease. They used explosives that sent groups of enemies flying. They used their bare hands when nothing else was available. The battle lasted for 6 hours. Watched until her eyes burned from strain. She watched the 50 humans hold a breach against 2,000 warriors, then 3,000, then 5,000. She watched them refuse to fall back even when they were wounded and bleeding. She watched them fight with a fury she had never seen from any species. At some point, the soldiers on the walls began to cheer. They had been ready to die, convinced that the battle was lost. But watching the humans fight gave them courage. They redoubled their efforts, pouring fire into the enemy ranks while the humans held the breach. More human transports arrived as the space battle ended. Fresh soldiers dropped to reinforce their comrades. The advance stalled, then stopped, then began to retreat. By sunset, the enemy was running. Left the observation tower and rushed to the western wall. She pushed through crowds of celebrating soldiers and piles of enemy dead. She found Daniel sitting on a broken piece of the wall, breathing heavily. His armor was shattered in a dozen places. Blood soaked through the gaps, some of it purple from veins, some of it red from his own. She could see wounds that should have been fatal, cuts and punctures that had pierced deep into his body. He looked up when she approached. He smiled that gentle smile. He asked if she was safe. Stared at him. Tears she did not expect began to fall from her eyes. She told him that she was safe because of him. She asked why he had risked his life like this. She asked why he kept fighting even when he was so badly hurt. Daniel told her that humans had another saying on Earth. He said that they protected what they loved. Then his eyes closed, and he collapsed forward into her arms. Screamed for medics. She held her husband against her chest and felt his blood warm against her skin. She prayed to the old gods, gods she had not believed in since childhood. She prayed that he would live. Daniel spent 3 weeks in a healing pod. Visited him every day. She would sit beside the transparent container and watch his wounds slowly close. Human medicine was remarkable, she learned. Their healing technology was not designed to save patients who could not save themselves. It was designed to accelerate the incredible recovery abilities that humans already possessed naturally. The doctors told her that Daniel had suffered 17 separate wounds that would have killed any. 3 of them had pierced vital organs. 1 had cracked his skull. By every medical standard they knew, he should have died on that wall. But humans were not like other species. His body was already repairing itself when the medics reached him. His blood clotted faster than should have been possible. His cells divided and regenerated at a rate that their instruments could barely measure. Within a week, wounds that should have needed months to heal were closing. Within 2 weeks, his broken bones had fused back together. By the 3rd week, he was awake and complaining about being kept in the pod. The war ended during his recovery. The Dominion had lost over half their fleet in the Battle of Prime. Their ground forces had been decimated. More importantly, they had finally seen what humans could do when they stopped pretending to be harmless. The leadership sent a message requesting peace negotiations. Admiral Blake responded with a counter-message. He told the Dominion that humans did not negotiate with species that tried to commit genocide. He told them that they could surrender unconditionally, or they could watch their empire burn. The surrendered. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species who had dismissed humans as primitive and weak suddenly remembered old rumors. They remembered stories of human explorers who had wandered into hostile space and emerged unscathed. They remembered tales of human freighters that had fought off pirate fleets single-handedly. They remembered whispered accounts of human soldiers who simply refused to die. The Galactic Council requested an emergency meeting with Earth's representatives. Earth sent a simple reply. They said they would attend the meeting, but they wanted to make one thing clear first. Humanity had allies now. The Empire was under human protection permanently. Any species that threatened them would answer to Earth. No one challenged this declaration. Was visiting Daniel when he finally woke up properly. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the light. He saw her sitting beside him and smiled that gentle smile she had come to know so well. He asked how long he had been unconscious. She told him 3 weeks. She told him about the surrender, the council meeting, the new balance of power in the galaxy. She told him that her people were safe because of what he and the other humans had done. Daniel listened quietly. When she finished, he did not celebrate or boast about the victory. He simply asked if she was all right. Did not know how to answer. She had spent 3 weeks thinking about this man. She had reviewed every conversation they had ever had, every moment they had shared since their wedding. She had thought about the way he looked at her, with respect and warmth, and something else she had been afraid to name. She told him that she needed to say something important. Daniel waited patiently. Told him about the day of their wedding. She said that she had resented him from the moment he proposed the marriage. She had seen him as a symbol of her desperation, a reminder that she had sold herself to save her people. She had promised him nothing but her name and meant every word. Daniel nodded slowly. He said that he understood. He said that he had never expected anything more. Continued. She told him about the night of the assassination, when she had seen him fight for the first time. She said that she had been afraid of him then. She had realized that she was married to something she did not understand, something dangerous and powerful and utterly alien. Daniel's eyes showed a flicker of pain. He started to apologize for frightening her. She stopped him. She told him about visiting the embassy, about learning the truth of Earth. She said that she had expected to find a predator hiding behind a mask. Instead, she had found a man who spoke about beauty and honor and protecting things worth protecting. She told him about watching from the observation tower as he fought on the wall. She said that she had seen him take wound after wound, injuries that should have stopped any creature, but he had kept fighting. He had refused to fall. And when it was over, when he was bleeding from a dozen fatal wounds, his first thought had been to ask if she was safe. Daniel was silent. He seemed unsure where this conversation was going. Took a deep breath. She told him that she did not want a political marriage anymore. Daniel blinked. He asked what she meant. Told him that she wanted a real marriage. She wanted to know him as a person, not just as an ally. She wanted to spend time with him, to talk with him, to understand how he saw the universe. She wanted to fall asleep beside him and wake up to his face. She wanted to love him if he would let her try. Daniel stared at her for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. Then he smiled. Not the gentle diplomatic smile he usually wore, a real smile, wide and warm and full of something like wonder. He told her that he had hoped for this since the day he arrived on Prime. Felt tears forming in her eyes again. She asked why he had never said anything. Daniel told her that love could not be demanded. It had to be given freely. He said that he had been willing to wait forever if that was what it took. He said that he would have spent his entire life protecting her and her people, even if she never felt anything for him at all. Because that was what humans did. They loved without condition and without expectation. Leaned forward and kissed him. It was the first time she had touched him willingly since their wedding. His lips were warm and gentle. He raised one bandaged hand and brushed the tears from her cheek. When she pulled back, he was still smiling. He told her that he looked forward to showing her Earth someday. He wanted her to see his, to meet his family, to understand where he came from. Told him that she would like that. They sat together in comfortable silence as the sun set over Prime. The city outside was celebrating the end of the war. Music and laughter drifted through the window. Thought about the future. She thought about the alliance between their peoples, the changes coming to the galaxy, the new era that was beginning. But mostly she thought about the quiet man beside her, the warrior who chose gentleness, the predator who loved poetry. She had married him to save her people. She had expected nothing but sacrifice and duty. Instead, she had found something she never knew she was looking for. She had found a partner, a protector, a husband. She had found love. And as she leaned her head against his shoulder and watched the moons rise, realized that the humans had given her people something more valuable than warships or weapons. They had given them hope. And hope, she understood now, was the most human gift of all.